Okay, students, let's continue with the lecture on collecting banker. So, who is a collecting banker? A collecting banker is one who undertakes to collect the amount of checks and bills for his customers from the paying banker. In our example of Ram and Shyam, ICICI Bank was the collecting banker which had undertaken to collect bills and checks for its customer Shyam from the paying bank HDFC Bank in our example, right? Okay. The first question that could be asked is, what are the duties and responsibilities of a collecting bank? So this is in slide 5. So there are these 5 duties which are definitely to be exercised by the collecting bank. First and foremost is they have to exercise due care and diligence in collection of checks. So when they receive the check, they have to recheck the dates, recheck the amount in words, recheck the amount in numbers. All these small basic checks have to be made. And if something is wrong, that has to be immediately updated to the customer. The other important duty is the check has to be presented for payment without any delay. So at the max, it should be the next working day when this is taken for further processing, right? The other important duty is in case the check gets dishonored for whatever reason, the intimation has to go to the customer on a very high priority basis. That is without any delay. And the most important thing is once the clearance of payment is done, the amount has to be credited immediately into the customer's account. Okay. Sometimes it also happens that the bank, is not a member of a clearing house in certain locations. In that case, the collecting bank could probably enter into a tie-up with some other bank and help with the clearance. Okay, so these are some of the important duties. Now, while performing this duty, what is the statutory protection? What are the statutory protection that a collecting bank can get? See, since it involves money, anything goes wrong, they should not get trapped, or they should not be blamed for things that have gone wrong, or major damages that are caused because of delays. So, as far as the statutory protection is concerned, below are some of the points. So, statutory protection is available to the collecting banker when he receives payment in good faith and without negligence. So, even while collecting payment, he has to exercise good faith and be at most careful. So, if he honestly executes this and he has done all the due diligence, then he gets protection under law. Okay. Please remember the burden of proving that the bank has collected in good faith and without negligence is on the banker. Okay. The next is statutory protection is available to the collecting banker if he collects on behalf of his customer only. So he should not be, offering to, collect amount for strangers. The person has to be an account holder with the bank and with the bank branch. Okay. The next thing is the collecting bank acts as an agent. So he must receive the payment as an agent of the customer in this case, and not as a holder, and not that he possesses that instrument. Okay. So the banker as a holder for value is not competent to claim protection from liability. So what this means is, it is quite possible many a times the collecting bank, so supposing Shyam has deposited the check with ICICI Bank for 5,000, the check value is 5,000, it is quite possible that ICICI Bank credits that amount to Shyam's account immediately, and then it carries on the collection process. Okay. So what is important is bank here is the holder for value, because it has already given the value to its customer, and now using the instrument it is just going to collect the amount. But what it says is, as long as The bank is an agent of the customer. It is still covered. It has statutory protection. It cannot claim protection if it is only going to be a holder for value. So in our example, what happens is they will reverse the credit entry in case the check gets dishonored at a later stage. They will reverse the credit entry insurance account. Okay. The other thing is statutory protection is available for collecting banks in case of cross checks. Though checks must be crossed prior to their presentment for collection. So if checks are given and that has to be collected, banks have to ensure it is a crossed check. Okay. So having done these two topics, that is duties and responsibilities of a collecting bank and the statutory protection, we will again touch upon the topics of holder and holder in due course. So the next topic is what are the rights of a holder. I mean, we just discussed the two golden rules about who is a holder, right? Entitlement for possession and entitlement for receiving or recovery of cash. So rights of a holder, when we talk about it, these are some of the rights. An endorsement. We just did endorsement, no? Previous lecture. Endorsement in blank, that is, if just a signature is given, you can see the slide 7. Endorsement in blank may be converted by the holder to endorsement in full. So the holder can further specify the payee's name or the person who has to be the beneficiary, right? Okay. The holder is entitled to cross a check generally or specifically, and also with the word non-negotiable. So if he gets a bearer check, he can further cross the check and take it forward. The holder may receive the payment, and if the payment is in due course, the instrument is discharged. So as we already told, the holder is entitled to receive the payment. So if he receives the payment, then the transaction is settled. There is no obligation. The instrument is also discharged. Okay. And he can transfer or endorse the check to a third person if it is not prohibited by the direction given in the check. So if the first person who has given the check to the current holder, if that doesn't prohibit further transfer of check. One example we saw is account pay check, no? So if it is an account pay check in the name of the holder, he cannot further endorse it. So that becomes, so he can transfer if such conditions are not there. Okay. He may also sue on the instrument in his own name. So in case a check gets bounced or something goes wrong, he can always sue the person who has given him the instrument. And then in case he loses the copy of this instrument, he can request for a duplicate one. Okay, so these are the rights of holder. But what are the rights of a holder in due course? So in case of holder, we said he can sue the person who has given the instrument. But what are the rights of the holder in due course? The holder in due course has lot more rights. He can sue on the instrument in his own name, no doubt. He may receive the payment, and if the payment is in due course, the instrument is discharged. I mean, exactly like holder, the obligation is discharged. The best part is the holder in due course holds the instrument free from any defect of title of prior parties. And so in this case, what happens is, we saw the example where there were 4 parties, X, Y, Z and A. So X issues a check to Y, Y loses it, Z steals the check, he manipulates and he gives it to A. So now A here is a holder in due course because he is not aware of any manipulation in the check prior to him getting the same. So in complete good faith, he has taken the check. So he becomes a holder in due course. So when he becomes the holder, the title that he gets is a clean title. So that is what it says. He holds the instrument free from any defect of title. So Z, the party prior to A, he has a defective title because this is not, he is not even a holder. But A is discharged of any such defect. So that is one big advantage of holder in due course. And holder in due course, he may enforce payment of instrument for the full amount against all the parties. As I told you, all the parties who are part of earlier endorsements, he can force them or any of them to make the payment and settle his account. So that is rights of holder in due course. This is mentioned in section 57 of the Negotiable Instruments Act. The last topic here is, we also discussed the term payment in due course. And so what were the key terms we used there? Apparent tenor. Okay. Apparent tenor, in good faith without negligence. So what are the features of payment in due course? So taking from the definition, the first feature is the payment must be in accordance with apparent tenor. It should be made at the time of maturity or, before maturity. If it is a check, definitely it has to be after maturity. Okay. Then the payment must be made by or on behalf of the drawee or acceptor. So who is making the payment? The payment is being made on behalf of the acceptor, the person who has agreed to make the payment. Okay. And the next feature is that it must be made in good faith without negligence. It must be made honestly, made in the belief that the person demanding payment is legally entitled to it. So with whatever basic checks he has done, he has to make the payment. The payer must not be made guilty of any negligence in making payment. So as long as he has taken all the necessary steps, he should not be held responsible for anything going wrong later on. Okay, so it is like saying students who have worked hard, they have worked very hard and they have given their paper with utmost sincerity. So no point blaming the students if something else goes wrong, right? Something like that. And the final feature of payment in due course is that the person to whom payment is made should be in possession of the instrument. So the person who receives the payment should show the instrument and should be entitled to receive the payment, right? Okay then. So these are the topics under this chapter, collecting banker. We will talk about the paying banker in the subsequent lecture. Thank you so much.